Hey, ChairLife listeners, Chair World is just around the corner. February 1st, 2026, and I'm teaching 2 sessions this year. The first one, How to Find the Intersection Between Your Purpose and Practice, is Monday, February 2nd at 1:30 Pacific time. I really hope to see you there. The second session will be on Tuesday at 8:30 a.m., and it is called Best Practices to Optimize Your Time and Income to Build Your Ideal Practice. I hope you will register for these sessions now. Space is going to be limited. I'm really excited to see you. We've added in a lot of new information this year, and it's going to be great. So we'll see you at Chair World.
Welcome to the ChairLife podcast with Tom Cuthbert. As a CEO coach and master chair, Tom brings you the insights, strategies, and tools to help you build your chair life, where mission and purpose intersect with a balanced work life. This is the path to leading with impact while living with intention. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Tom Cuthbert.
Welcome back to the ChairLife podcast, 2026 edition. We're back from our holiday and Christmas and New Year's break and refreshed, ready to go, and looking forward to an exciting year ahead. We're going to begin this year by talking about time and how to get more of it back. We certainly can't create more, but we can do a better job managing it. You know, Peter Drucker said time is the scarcest resource, and unless it is managed, nothing else can be managed. And I believe that to be true, and that's why I am really focused on having support team around me to help me invest my time in the high payoff activities. As chairs and certainly as executives, we need to focus on those high impact, high payoff activities. We need to delegate to high performing EAs or other leaders on our team that can help amplify our own effectiveness, save us time, reduce our costs, and make sure that we are focused on delivering excellence to our members. So let's start with why I decided to take my role of one person last year and break it off into 2 people this year. Well, the simple answer is it's very difficult to find one person that has the gifts and the skill sets that each of these ladies have. But let me back up before I get into that. Let's just talk about where you are right now and how you need to decide if you need an EA or an admin person or a tech support person. Let's ask the first 2 most important questions and see where you are. The first question is, what am I doing that someone else could or should be doing? And I ask this not only to me and the way that I've thought about it for now well over 10 years, but I ask it to all of the CEOs and leaders that I work with and coach. The time that we spend doing things is critical. And not that as a person we're any better or worse than any other team member that we have, but our role as a leader is very important. And so using that time wisely is critical for us. And so I suggest that you take 2 weeks or so and just grab the back of your bullet journal or a notebook. Jot down, what are you doing that someone else could or should be doing? You'll come up with a long list. And as you work your way through that list, the goal is to get that time back, to focus it on what's most important for you. The second question is, what is the return on the investment? So thinking about investing in someone to support you, there's obviously a cost that goes with that. And how do we make sure that we get a return on that investment? Well, when you think about valuing your time and the impact that your time has, you'll be able to figure that out very, very quickly. So what's most important to me? Well, they are my 3 things, the things that I do to support our community, grow our community, and help leaders achieve more than they imagine possible. About 10% of my time is planning. I plan meetings, I plan one-to-ones, I plan speakers, I plan sessions. And so about 10% of my work world, which is about 1,600 hours a year for me. So 160 or so hours is focused on planning. We have quarterly planning sessions. We follow EOS. We meet on a weekly basis in L10 meetings and check in. And so that is all part of that 10% planning time. 70% of my time, or about 1,000 hours a year, is in one-to-ones. And it's important for me to have that time and to be able to be fully focused on the member sitting in front of me because A, that's what they expect, and B, it allows me to bring my best to that hour and a half or so meeting that we have. Those one-to-ones are the cornerstone, the most important thing that we do as Vistage chairs. And so I think that that time has to be fully focused. And if I have things in the back of my mind or am slipping out in the middle of a one-to-one to check on something else, I'm going to be distracted and I'm not going to be fully present. The remaining time, about another 20%, is spent facilitating. We have 7 groups going into this year. And in each of those groups, same thing. When I'm presenting, I want to be fully focused on the group. I want to be able to lean in and draw people into the conversation. So we're including everyone in the room in these discussions, not just the people that speak the most. And facilitating is an art. It's something that I've learned over the years and am still learning, quite honestly, and looking forward to Chair World here in a few weeks to learn more. These 3 things are critical for me. And so everything else in my world is delegated to someone else. It's now been 10 years since I hired an EA, part-time EA to begin. And I look back over the last 10 years and I can report that the number of hours that I have worked has dropped 500 hours per year. Pretty remarkable drop, quite honestly. My income per hour has grown by 3x. And I'm consistently working 4 days a week. I take July off completely. I still run full high-performing groups, and honestly, I'm happier and healthier and more effective than I've been. And it's because I've identified the things that are high payoff activities for me, and I've delegated those activities to someone else that are not on that list. So to help connect some dots for you on this, I refer back to my flywheel, which you can see, and we'll put a link in the show notes to tomcuthbert.com/flywheel. But if you look at that flywheel, let me talk about how Savannah and Lundy support me in my work, leveraging that flywheel. So if you start at the top, goal that I want to have delivered to our members, it is to lead high-performing members to achieve more than they imagine possible. And then working backwards on the flywheel, the next one before that is to deliver excellence to level 5 leaders in full groups. And full groups is an important part of that. To do that, we're going to need to attract and retain high-performing members from referrals and other inbound sources. So the way that Jen Collins would say this from his book, Turning the Flywheel, would be that when we guard my time and follow my process and attributes, and we can't help but attract and retain high-performing member candidates via referrals, and we can't help but then deliver excellence to level 5 leaders and full groups, and when we do that, we can't help but leading high-performing members to achieve more than they imagined possible. Let me step through each of these and just give you a quick snapshot of how Savannah and Lundy helped me achieve this. Now, just for clarification of their roles, Savannah is my EA. She handles my calendar, all appointments, all scheduling, everything relating to that. She manages all interactions with members, both in the meeting and setting up and breaking down sessions and making sure that members have what they need. And she is the out-facing go-to person for everything that's needed inside our chair practice. Lundy is the glue that holds it together on the back end. She is our technology wizard. She leverages AI at a pretty high level, something we'll be talking about more this coming year. She organizes things, she prints things, she puts packets together for Savannah to then deliver to the members. And again, these are 2 very different personalities, very different skill sets. They work together so well, and they're both amazing people. I'm so impressed, and we've made such great change in our team this past year, but their roles are very different. And so let me just talk about how each of my attributes are covered and supported by their work. So Savannah sets all of my phone calls. Most are 20-minute calls that I have with member candidates to start that selection process. She also manages my recurring one-to-ones that I have with members. She manages everything relating to my schedule, including rescheduling one-to-ones. As far as Lundy guarding my time, she's building automated systems so that nothing falls through the cracks. She manages everything on the back end to make sure that my time is fully guarded and focused on what's most important. Number two is following the process. Now, we plan 18 months out, and Lundy documents everything that we do. I mentioned we run EOS. In our weekly meetings, we have KPIs. In our quarterly meetings that are facilitated by our COO, Sophie, those meetings are captured. Lundy manages the output from those meetings. She automates workflow. She keeps track of Asana, the task management tool that we have. She designs placemats, every visual aspect that we have. And a big thing that she's taken on is she develops the content and the workbooks for programs that we have, including Spark City Academy that launched last year that's been a big success. So everything inbound, she follows and designs those processes for us and makes sure everything runs on that process. A big one, of course, is member selection. And so there's workflow that we've developed for that as well that she manages. Savannah, on the other hand, executes all of the pre and post meeting information, and she does so to perfection. She coordinates setup, breakdown, and what needs to be communicated before a meeting, during a meeting, after a meeting. Retreats, and she orders supplies, just keeps everything that we need in place. So following the processes that we have, since everything that we do in our world repeats, is a really critical step. Next is to invest in myself. So they both guard my time. They put reading folders in front of me. They know that I have time to take care of myself physically by working out and family time and rest. Number four is my brand attributes. And Savannah is the human extension, if you will, of my brand. She's warm, she's friendly, she's responsive, she's member-facing. She is the out-facing person that really does a great job of representing our brand into the community. Behind the scenes, Lundy is the person that gets the awards put together. She puts the information out that reinforces my brand attributes. And so this front person and behind the scenes person work perfectly together for that. So how do we use this? How do I use this team to attract great member? Well, Savannah owns the prospect pipeline 100%. She is responsible for managing people through that pipeline. Lundy designed the workflow and does the back-end work of setting up people in Salesforce and tracking them through the pipeline on My Vistage. We have other resources for finding candidates for programs like Spark City Academy that she uses as well. But they work hand in hand through the workflow of defining and understanding where a prospect is in this funnel, and they manage them all the way through. Delivering excellence, Lundy is responsible for working with Allie, another team member, to book speakers, focus on topics. She designs agendas, she designs placemats, she designs everything that's visual that is seen by our members, flyers, other information that's pushed out. She owns the look and feel of everything that's touched by a member. And that is a fantastic way for us to deliver excellence because everything that is touched and seen by our members represents our brand. She also puts the newsletter together and does the visual aspects of that. And so that's a fantastic way, and she's great at doing that. Really super helpful. Savannah sends the recaps that are put together by Lundy and manages year-end updates and out-facing to make sure members have everything that they need. And then lastly, helping leaders to achieve more than they imagined possible. Well, together they track goals and outcomes. They each have their own goals that relate to member success. They read NPS scores and they track our chair rank and feedback from members. They speak to our ambassadors and champions, and in particular, Savannah in almost every meeting will chat with members about how are things going? What would you like to see more of? She'll help them with coordinating, hosting, and things like that. So the team together is really helping members achieve more because it allows the members to focus on what's most important for them. So this is an A team, Savannah and Lundy working together hand in hand to help our members achieve more than they imagined possible. And how do you find these people and divide these roles? Well, these are things that I'll talk about more in the coming months. But at a high level, you want to look for their bright profile. We use Culture Index, and Culture Index allows us to find candidates that match a certain profile. Secondly, we meet together with them often. They report to Sophie, who's my COO, and Sophie really works with them by doing one-to-ones and encouraging them and keeping them focused on our process. We keep them up to speed by having them get embedded in everything that Vistage does. Every resource, every program, every opportunity that we have, we embed them in that as well. And so it does take time to put this team together. And this is kind of a high level thing that many of you may not be ready for, but I would encourage you, take a look and attend the ChairLife session coming up at Chair World here in a few weeks. And hear me talk about when you need an EA, when you need support, and what level of support that you need. For me, this level is perfect to run this practice and keep me focused on what's most important in my life. We also offer these services to you. We have chair success services, as you've heard us talk about, and we're supporting several chairs around the country now with direct services that utilize the systems and processes that we've developed to run my ChairLife, and you can consider doing with yours. So let us know if we can help with that. Thanks for listening.
Now it's time for Tom's tips and tricks to optimize your productivity and your chair life.
A couple of months ago, I saw a LinkedIn post by Vistage Chair Jim Ristusha. Jim's post talked about something that I thought was really important. It was about CEOs managing their time. And he told a quick story in there about one of his members. And I thought it was really important and impactful for us. And so I thought I would comment on that today. And Jim, thanks for giving me permission to refer back to that. I remember years ago reading the book E-Myth Revisited. And there's a quote in there that says, "The turnkey revolution is about creating a business that runs without you." And this is the sign of a high-performing company, is the lack or lessening of dependence on the owner and CEO of that business. And we've talked about this as it relates to enterprise value. We've talked about this about just growth of companies when it's dependent on one person. It's very difficult to do. But today's episode is inspired, as I mentioned, by that post. And Jim nailed it when he said a CEO might say, I'm going to miss the meeting because one employee is on vacation. Jim's post talked about that, and he talked about this hard truth that you can't run your business around other people's vacations. He observed that it's a systems problem, not a people problem. And as chairs, we can't let our members get away with this. You know, oftentimes a member will say, I'm going to miss a meeting because so-and-so is out, or whatever it might be. We have to really take that opportunity, just as Jim did, to challenge them on that and help them see that when the business is dependent on them, solely dependent on them, that is not a business that's going to scale and grow. We need to coach our CEOs to let go of the vine and build independence. So let's talk about why CEOs cling to the vine in the first place. It's not just because people are taking vacation. It's a mindset issue. And it's a mindset issue for everyone inside the company, not just CEOs. So early on, for all of us starting out in our careers, we're doers. We fix things. We're the person that gets promoted, and then people come to us and they expect us to solve problems for them. But once we start scaling a business, our ability to delegate is really important. Jim has a great analogy in his post about a Navy analogy, that the CO and the XO don't fill watches, they lead. Without this, PTO, somebody taking time off, becomes a crisis and growth stalls. There's a great stat from the HBR that says 70% of CEOs burn out from over-involvement. And over-involvement is such a great phrase because I see it with our members all the time. We fix this by helping members first see it and then challenging them to take a step back and let go of the vine. Our development groups like Emerging Leader, Advancing Leader, and Spark City Academy, and other programs, key groups obviously help us let go of the vine by developing that next level of leader, creating that independence. And so a great question for us to be challenging our CEOs, particularly the CEOs of some smaller companies, is asking them, what happens when insert name of person is out of town? Who is next up for that person? It also helps us keep focused on succession planning, which is another topic we have coming up this year. If we don't have backups to backups and backups to those backups in our pipeline, companies cannot run without individuals. We become dependent on too many people individually, not just the CEO, but the COO or other key leaders that we have. To build high-performing teams, we need a team. I've talked before in a past episode about every company needing 2 CEOs, one for the vision, the actual CEO, and one for right-hand execution that thinks and acts the exact same way that a CEO does. Jim is spot on with this, and so no company can scale with the dependence on any one individual. And so for us, a couple of quick steps for us to think about is just do some audit gaps. So who covers when somebody is out? How dependent are we on people around us? Developing those backups now. Obviously, as EOS tells us, document everything, put playbooks in place for all roles. Rise up leaders and give them more and more responsibility as they grow. And then test it. Take a week off, take 2 weeks off. Make sure your members are doing what we are trying to teach them. That's one of the reasons that I take July off every year, is that it helps me refresh and model to members that while I'm not running a company per se like they are, they should be able to take time off. I have a member that's been a longtime member in the banking industry, and as you probably know, they're required to take 2 weeks out of the bank because that just is a great way for them to audit things and make sure that there's no things going on there that shouldn't be, but certainly it forces them to make sure that they're delegating and that they've got processes in place. So Jim, thanks again for leaning into me with this and letting me share this with others. And I hope this becomes a great wake-up call for us to challenge our CEOs to lessen the dependence on them and increase the dependence on an entire team around them. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the ChairLife podcast. Remember, you can find more resources at tomcuthbert.com. Please let others know about our podcast by sending them to chairlifepodcast.com. See you next time on the ChairLife podcast.